In the studio here, Nolan Baker, Tim Wood, Paige Okorafor watching Liverpool there win and take a 5-point lead at the top of the table. Nolan Baker, I think the thing that stands out for me as an untrained eye, purely just a football fan and a neutral, it looks fun to watch Liverpool but also to play for Liverpool right now. Yeah, I think we're at a point now where everybody within the club and the fans will feel like something special is happening. And I think when looked at some of those breaks and the speed that they can go from at the back or defending to so fast counter-attacking, that reminded me of a Klopp type of team. They've taken that best kind of attribute and continued with it. The rest of it was a very calm, composed, quite frankly, slow game. I thought that was an easy win for Liverpool. I think Villa looked tired. I think when the subs came on the second part of the second half, I thought they had a bit of a rally up. We're not that many really good chances for Aston Villa, and Liverpool were knocking it around. They didn't have to work really hard to create something to win. They didn't have to work really hard to defend, asking questions to keep the lead at 1-0. It worked out to be a very comfortable day for them. And how much credit does Arne Slot take? And how much do we give to what's already an excellent squad of players? Well, it's a great question because I think the balance is where the answer is. What I love about Slot is he's, as you talked about, he's taken this team and he's given him a bit of a more methodical approach. Kind of go through the gears, but kind of grind through the gears. And what I've said about the team that he took over is it's much easier to take over a team and you think about Klopp. He had to get his players thinking, well, this is how we used to play. No, heavy metal all the time. Go forward, fly forward. That's why it took him a while. What I like with Slot is he's like, that's not my style. This is my style. But you're so conditioned to do it that in moments that we need to flick the switch, this team can press, can drive forward, can get all around the pitch because this is who those players are. So what he's done, trying to pull back on the reins a little bit, help them go through the gears, give them a different identity. I think it's been brilliant. He deserves a ton of credit. Is there a weakness? Well, at the moment, they're defending with tremendous determination. Well done. Brilliant. The front players couldn't be in better form, all of them. Darwin Núñez has always been a little bit in and out, but he got his goal today. Everybody else was scoring. I mean, we were saying Alexis McAllister, right? One of my favorite midfield players in the Premier League. He's been kind of quiet. Like for him, it hasn't quite happened yet, but for others in there, I mean, Gravenberch again today. Gravenberch, between doing blocks and a couple of times in the second half when you see him open his legs, because that's what he was brought to the club really to do, is box to box. He brought the ball forward superbly well. So he's done brilliantly well. Jones has been a lot better, improved. Szoboszlai not so much. So I think the midfield can get better, but I feel like the manager's learning all the time. Ibrahim Konate, another player. We talked about the players that have improved at this club. He was outstanding today, Konate. And now him and Virgil van Dijk. And the goalkeeper Keller, I mean, it's all good at the moment for them. It's a great question in terms of weaknesses, right? Because we see it with City, not that this team is yet of City calibre, but we see it with City. As soon as there's a weakness or Phil Foden doesn't seem like he's playing well, just get him off the pitch and bring someone else on who can do the job. And we see that in terms of the squad selection with Slot. He has options. So if someone seems to be a weakness in a team that doesn't have a lot of them, just plop them out, get someone else in and then get the results you want. I just have to ask you though, Lee Dixon did say in commentary, he'd love to know what you felt and what you thought about Kelleher. I've said it all along. I think this is probably the last season we see Kelleher at Liverpool. I mean, there's a lot of not great goalkeepers in the Premier League. He should be a starting goalkeeper in the Premier League. Oh, at what kind of level club? Oh, anywhere in the mid-table, top 10. Yeah, I think he can play there. Hi there, I'm Gary Strongbag, studio host of 1 Hour Sports coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. Let's go to the back page of The Sun. Nolan, I'll come to you. The headline Vic, a £63 million United snip. It is Victor Gyökeres pictured with Ruben Amorim after that emphatic win over Manchester City, where Gyökeres got the hat-trick. And Martin Blackburn reports Manchester United could land Victor Gyökeres for a knockdown £63 million, but face a fight with Real Madrid. What chance do you think Manchester United getting this striker, Nolan? What do you make of the link? I think they have an excellent chance of landing him. There is a key quote, I think, from the sport manager that says Victor Gyökeres has to stay, I think, until the end of the season, and then his life will change. Given who he's worked for the last 2 seasons, given who he's flourished with, he's 26 years old. It's more or less a goal a game in Portuguese football, and in Europe with the team of, I think, 66 goals in 67 games. He has moved dramatically on from the centre-forward that did well at Coventry. But I don't think anybody quite foresaw that a couple of years down the line after leaving England, he'd be coming back as a potential Manchester United centre-forward. But he's scoring goals. He has a manager that understands how to, or will have a manager at Old Trafford that knows how to get the best out of him. If they're going to land a centre-forward for 60 million when you consider how much they've spent in recent years, and they just look so fragmented and so blunt in front of goal at the minute, this to me seems like a real no-brainer. At the minute, you're looking at Højlund and Xerxes, and you're looking at centre-forwards that just aren't yet reliable enough to carry that load of being Manchester United centre-forward. They need firepower. This is somebody that will kind of be in a real hurry to get back to England, because at 26, he should be in his prime. A real good kind of example here of the advantage of removing yourself from the spotlight of English football, certainly, and then developing yourself in a good European league, increasing your reputation. Obviously, it's gone down great with a hat-trick against Manchester City, and yes, I expect him to be in the Premier League next season. A lot of physical attributes likened to Rasmus Højlund as well. United and Chelsea, we saw there in the mirror in hunt for Pep Destroyer Victor. We'll get to this story in the Telegraph in just a what do you make of that? Who would need him more, and who do you think he'd be more likely to move to out of Manchester United and Chelsea? Well, I suppose Chelsea have this abundance of forwards they've signed in the last 2 years, basically, whereas United feel thin there with 2 forwards who are lately misfiring. But that's actually where there's an interesting variable to this, and something that I understand did come up in Amorim's discussions with United, where obviously his work on Victor Gyökeres is one of the kind of many virtues of his career so far, along with those titles. But these are goals that propelled some of those trophies. And the wonder now, I suppose, at Old Trafford is whether he can have a similar effect with Højlund and Xerxes. It's a different context, of course, and also Gyökeres has the benefit of getting to play at a crucial age of development in a more forgiving league. Well, that doesn't mean the coach can't have some impact on what they can do. At the same time, given their issues, given their goals record this season, it is tempting when you see that record. And look, obviously the player himself is going to feel a bit of a loyalty to Amorim now for what he's done for his career. And like there was a sense with that comment from Amorim as if it wasn't necessarily just a slip of the tongue, it's hard, I think. Does he know a bit more? Yeah, Manchester United have some cash as well, but 23 goals in 15 games. I suppose Rasmus Højlund could be encouraged, maybe not fearing from it as an inspiration, because the story is good, isn't it? We saw that piece by Sam Dean. Let's quickly get back to that in the Telegraph. Gyökeres' miracle from lower league dud to outscoring Haaland. I saw some Manchester United fans, Martin, concerned that Dan Ashworth may have let him go at Brighton to Coventry. My Coventry supporting producer probably thinks Mark Robins deserves credit for the transformation in Victor Gyökeres. But this is a story of hope, isn't it? I think. Don't you think this one, Martin, that perhaps all players, there's no need to give up if you haven't quite realized your potential in your early 20s? No, absolutely. Did Rodney Knox cite his father when he won the Ballon d'Or last week, who said, "Don't give up now, keep going"? So I think that every player you speak to has had periods where there's been doubt from outside and certainly perhaps internal doubt. I think when he first went on loan to Coventry, I'm sure he only scored about 3 goals for them in half a season. So he didn't go there and set the world on fire. And even then, in the following 2 seasons, it was less than 40 goals across the 2 campaigns. A good tally by any stretch of the imagination, but not enough at that stage to make the Premier League clubs come and look at him. And I'm sure they will have spotted him at that point. As Miguel says, he's gone to a league that's not as demanding. You're not in the public eye and you've got a real up-and-coming coach. You've developed your game. So as I said, I expect him to come back to England this summer, but it's a great example that a couple of setbacks in your career don't mean a great deal. You can still come back. As I said, I've talked to loads of players and they've had down moments and one coach has found something. I remember talking to Robert Lee years ago and I said, would you have got 20 caps for England if Kevin Keegan hadn't been your manager? And he said, no chance. He said, you have to find a manager who loves you and believes you. And he said, that will propel you to much greater achievements. Indeed. And Andy Cole was well around that era, wasn't he? Sort of certainly transformed his career in his early 20s at Newcastle. Now, the striker times, by the way, reporting 63 million Gyökeres as well. Striker, who led route of Man City as gentleman's agreement with Sporting Lisbon, but right, let's turn our attention to Super Sunday, arguably the game of the weekend. Arsenal travelled to Stamford Bridge to take on Chelsea. So you spoke to Mikel Arteta a bit earlier on. How is his team shaping up, Ben, for the weekend? Yeah, David, compared to Pep Guardiola, he was very talkative and he was very upbeat ahead of this game on Sunday at Stamford Bridge. However, he did admit that he had to be quite vague when it came to some of the fitness issues that Arsenal have got. Remember, Declan Rice didn't travel to Milan for the Champions League defeat against Inter on Wednesday. There was a foot injury. There's been reports that maybe he's got a broken bone in his foot. He wouldn't confirm or deny that, Mikel Arteta, but he did say that he basically is in contention for Sunday and they'll have to assess him over the next 48 hours. Looks like better news, even more better news with regard to Martin Odegaard. And remember, he hadn't played for Arsenal since August the 31st when they drew against Brighton at the Emirates Stadium until he came on very, very late, albeit very, very late in stoppage time against Inter Milan on Wednesday night. So he made that small appearance then in midweek, and he is in contention maybe to even start at Stamford Bridge. As for Michael Morono and Kai Havertz, they both came off with knocks to the head, but the mood music around those two is quite positive. It does feel like that they both will be available for what looks like a really crucial game against Chelsea. And Dalmish, I have to say recent results haven't been the best. Is this essentially must win on Sunday or must not lose? How would you term it? We could term it in must win or must not lose, but Mikel Arteta will interpret that in a very different way. Yes, up until 3 games ago in the Premier League, Arsenal's record this season was 5 wins and 2 draws and no defeats from their first 7 games. Since then, it's been 2 defeats and a draw, so 1 point from a possible 9. He wouldn't go as far as to say that it's a must win. He clearly wants to win on Sunday, and he basically just carried on with that kind of tone when we spoke to him a little bit earlier on. Yes, he does want to win this game, but he's noticed that the competition within the Premier League is such that some of the teams that aren't expected to beat some of the bigger teams are doing exactly that. So the competition is closing in and he expects all of the top teams to be dropping points towards the end of the season. We have missed certain points in the last few weeks. Obviously, the margins have become smaller and smaller and smaller. It doesn't mean that the margin doesn't exist no more, but more perfection is going to be demanded for the future. So for sure we want to win. We have to prepare and we have prepared the game to win it, and that's the only thing that is in our heads. No, we don't need a reset. We need, in one particular aspect, go from 95 to 100. I'm not going to tell you what that is. I think everybody has been consistently struggling with the level that there is in this league and in general in Europe, playing every 3 days at the level. Because the temperature has gone up another level, the level has gone up another level, and to win, and win, if not, I would put my fingers here that nobody is going to do 100 points this year. But it will require perfection to keep winning, and even the teams that are winning, the margins are being like this, or the moments in games they've been like this. So, very tough, but this is the task. We don't know how it's going to play out if there is a team that is able to do something like this, but everybody is struggling even if he's winning. That's the thing. And sometimes the margins you could sense feel were bigger in games. They are not at the moment. I haven't seen a team being that superior to other teams. But at the end, the fact is that you have to continue to win and find ways and details to keep the right to win the games. Yeah, I mentioned it has been 1 point from the last 9 for Arsenal, but they've been here before. If you go back to last season in December, they went through a similar run. They drew with Liverpool, and then they lost against Fulham and against West Ham. Again, 1 point from a possible 9. They then made that winter warming trip to Dubai, and they returned from Dubai and won 8 Premier League games in a row. Clearly, the football calendar today is not going to allow Arsenal and Mikel Arteta to travel to sunnier climes just now, but he has revealed he's been doing everything he can to turn around Arsenal's form. Well, obviously, when you don't win, it affects the mood, it affects the energy. But the positive thing is that there is nobody impossible in this room or outside that wants to win more than I do, and that these guys in the dressing room want to do. It is impossible. So that desire today, I had a meeting with them about it, and I can sense it straight away. And what I sense as well is a big belief in how good we are as a team. That's the joy of this team, that you go in there this morning and thinking of how they're going to feel after that, and we talk about, and they are there, they are paying attention, they are hungry, they want to do more, What else we can do? What? And it's unbelievable. The desire they have, the togetherness they have, it's just a joy to work with them. It does not matter. At the end, we cannot go to Dubai for a week like we went last time. We can go to Dubai still for 2 days. If that's the solution, we go forwards and backwards, and that the team is doing 10 times better things than we used to do at that period. That's the positive thing. But to all this to be clear and relevant, you have to win, especially to answer certain questions. Liverpool and Manchester City both play on Saturday before Arsenal travel to Stamford Bridge. Now, if Liverpool and City were both to win their respective games on Saturday, Arsenal will go to Stamford Bridge, 10 points behind the leaders Liverpool and 8 points behind the champions Manchester City. And it's not going to be easy to close that gap again because Chelsea are a team on the rise and Mikel Arteta has been really impressed with how they've developed, particularly starting with Mauricio Pochettino last season and what he calls the touch that Enzo has applied to Chelsea this season. It has got a real feel of a big game, this one, and maybe one that Arsenal can't afford to lose because how big does that gap have to get for them not to be in this title race? Mikel Arteta won't be conceding anything win, lose or draw come Sunday, but will be debating it, no doubt. It is a live Super Sunday clash. It's unmissable. It's Chelsea against Arsenal. Thanks very much indeed, Nolan. Yeah, it is an absolutely huge game with some big-name protagonists, the likes of Bukayo Saka, Cole Palmer on the pitch, and these two in the dugout as well. And as far as the Chelsea boss Enzo Maresca is concerned, well, he believes that they are certainly in a bit of a better position. They're able to take the first real scalp of the season by beating Arsenal at Stamford Bridge. For sure, I would like to win this kind of game. But since we start, I always said the same, that for sure I analysed the result. But first of all, I analysed the performance. Hopefully we can win Sunday, we can win that kind of game. But also I think at the end, in this competition in the Premier League, it's important and it's difficult to win against any team. For sure, if I can decide, I would like to win against Arsenal on Sunday, no doubt. But also I think Liverpool away, the performance was very good. We didn't deserve to lose, even City. The good thing is that we are there, and you cannot see a big difference when we play this kind of game. And this is the most important thing. For sure, I don't have a doubt if it's Sunday or it's next game, but for sure we're going to be there and win this kind of game, no doubt. But as I mentioned, Chelsea and Arsenal level on points in the Premier League heading into the weekend. And Arsenal could be all of 10 points behind leaders Liverpool and 8 of the champions of Manchester City before kick-off at Stamford Bridge. So effectively, is there more pressure on Mikel Arteta rather than Enzo Maresca ahead of the game? I don't know, I also like to get the pressure from this kind of game. So the pressure is also for us. But for sure, as I said, for me they are the closest one with City. Both, I consider them better than the rest. And the reason why I said many times is because one club is working with the same manager 9 years and the other one is working with the same manager 5 years. And this is a big, huge advantage compared to the rest. So for me, that's why they are in this moment better than the rest. But we're going to try Sunday to make the life difficult for them. We're going to try our best. The feeling from us is that we can compete and we can win against any team. And if you don't take serious and if you don't do the right things, also you can lose against any team. But for sure, we have the right feeling that we're going in the right direction. And hopefully Sunday we can give our fans a good day. Well, Cole Palmer looks set to win his race to be fit for Sunday. He was selected for Lee England's squad yesterday, and Maresca revealed that he should be training with the squad latest tomorrow. So as we mentioned, it is a huge game for Chelsea against Arsenal on Super Sunday. Look, Pete's back. Let's get straight to the stats from last night. Then goalless at half-time, as I said, there was a big improvement from Liverpool after the break, wasn't there? Yeah, there was. It's an incredible win, really, for Liverpool when you think what Leverkusen did last season, unbeaten domestically. And in the first half here, we can see that Leverkusen really frustrated Liverpool. They had more of the ball, much more of the ball, 57% possession. They had 5 shots to Liverpool's 9 and just 2 shots on target from the home side. And you can see from the expected goals, neither side really producing very much in terms of the way of clear-cut chances. But it's been a bit of a theme for Liverpool this season, improving after the second half, wearing down teams perhaps, using their options off the bench. And we can see they really turned it around in the second half in terms of becoming much more dominant. Of course, the Anfield factor with the crowd behind them, Liverpool taking control of possession. 13 shots, 5 of those on target. And look at the expected goals, 3.17. Of course, they put 4 goals past the Bayer Leverkusen goalkeeper. But they were producing real big chances throughout the game and still limiting Leverkusen at the other end as well. So, a really impressive second half performance from Liverpool. But across the whole 90 minutes, that's an impressive win for Arne Slot. It is, but this has been a common theme for Liverpool, hasn't it? You've been looking at their recent games. Yeah, that's right. Even back into the first game of the season against Ipswich. I don't know if you remember that one, Rob. They struggled a little bit in the first half. And then Arne Slot made a change at half-time, bringing Kanate on for Tsimikas. And they went on to win that game. But particularly recently, we've seen his half-time team talks or changes in the second half really have an impact. So we have a look at the last games at half-time where Liverpool have been. And obviously they were trailing Arsenal and came back to draw that important game at the Emirates there. They were 0-0 with Brighton in the cup game. 3-2 winners in that one, progressing in the cup there. And even at the weekend, losing to Brighton at Anfield 1-0 in the Premier League before turning it around so brilliantly in the second half there. And same story as we've just seen last night, 0-0 at halftime, 4-0 winners. So this real feeling that even if you have a decent 45 against Liverpool, they can come back and really hit you. So this is across all competitions this season. We can see goals conceded, shots and shots on target. Liverpool's so much stronger in the second half, it seems. And that real intensity and durability of this team has really taken them to a fantastic start to this season. It's carrying them well at the moment in the Champions League. Let's have a look at how that table looks. So how close are Liverpool to qualification for the knockout stage? Not far off, I'd say now. So 12 points on the board for Liverpool. Leaders in this new long table that we have in the Champions League. That's why we had to get this bigger screen to fit it in. Slav and Bratislava, they're miles away. You can barely see them down that corner. So Opta sort of worked out or predicted or tried to figure out that you need about 15 points to finish in the top 8. This column here, which would automatically take you into the knockout rounds. Liverpool then just a win away, really, with 4 games still remaining. But yeah, I think they're very well placed, obviously top of the Premier League. And it's been a true start for Arne Slot so far. Yeah, and it backs up that old saying, you don't win anything with young boys. It's been a really impressive start for Liverpool in all competitions. Just very quickly remind us how well Arne Slot has done. Well, record start, 8 wins from 10 games in the Premier League. And look at this, just that one defeat there. Nottingham Forest, a real strange game at Anfield. That seems like an anomaly, and obviously the draw with Arsenal. But he couldn't have asked for much better, could he? Okay, he couldn't. Well, that will pain them. That will pain Liverpool. Let's get more on that with Mark right now. Very optimistic, wasn't he there, Gary Neville, about Arsenal's chances? But I wonder whether he might have changed his tune had he spoken after the news this morning that Edu is going to be leaving. Yeah, 24 hours is a long time in football, isn't it? And obviously seismic news coming out of Arsenal this morning with regards to Edu's departure from the football club. We're just waiting on a timescale. But yeah, that will be a big blow to many Arsenal fans. It'll be a big blow to what Arsenal are doing. He's been a huge part of rejuvenating that side and not just bringing together a group of players that are capable of winning the Premier League title, but pushing deep into European competition as well. It feels like a very different Arsenal to the one he joined as technical director in 2019. He became the first ever technical director the club had, sporting director in 2022. Obviously was responsible for getting Mikel Arteta to commit his future to the club in the last few months and has been a huge part there and is a big ally of Mikel Arteta. But things have suddenly changed this morning, and that's the way football will go. It'll be interesting to get Gary Neville's thoughts as to whether he still believes Arsenal are total favourites off the back of this news. Because there's no question there'll be a lot of people walking around that training ground feeling like this is the end of an era because Edu has been so significant for that football club. I know a lot of people will say, well, he's only won 1 FA Cup in that time. 1 FA Cup in 5 years doesn't really say that this is an exciting project. But not only has they created this team that's capable of challenging for the Premier League title, but there is a real feel-good factor around the club, a connection with the fan base. So yeah, this will be a big blow this morning.